If you've ever caught yourself thinking, why does my body feel so old? Maybe your posture doesn't feel as strong anymore. Maybe your low back fatigues much more quickly than it once did. Maybe your shoulders feel more stiff and less mobile than they once were. Or maybe just everyday movement feels more challenging to do. Here's the truth. Your body isn't falling apart. You are not getting too old. You simply might be missing a few foundational movements that keep your body strong, stable, healthy, and capable as you age. And after coaching people of all levels for more than 25 years, I have seen this over and over again. When you begin mastering these foundational movements, your body begins feeling younger, stronger, and more resilient. Today, I'm teaching you the exact movements every person should master for lifelong strength, longevity, and confidence. Let's get into it. Here's what we're covering today. Category 1, trunk strength and midline control. We're gonna be going over the hollow body, the tight arch, and the side plank. Category 2, upper body strength for daily life. Plank variations as well as upper body push and pull, both vertically and horizontally, as well as hangs and support holds. Category 3, shoulder health, grip strength, and longevity. In this category, we're building on the hollow body position and tight arch position, as well as our hangs from the bar. We'll be moving into some different carry variations, one being the farmer carry, and we'll finish up with some kettlebell swings, talking about just basic overall proper movement mechanics, form, technique, and what it is that we are focusing on during those movements. I will demo each movement and you can follow along at your own pace based on where you're at right now. Let's start with your foundation. Category 1, trunk strength and midline control. Hollow body, tight arch, and side plank. These 3 positions are the foundation for everything your body does. Whether that is running, pushing, pulling, lifting, and even sitting or standing with good posture. Position 1, hollow body, on the floor. We're gonna lay down to start. Get your feet set right about hip distance. And then what I want you to do is reach your fingertips as far forward as you can. Elevate your shoulder blades up nice and high. Rib cage actively pulls toward your hips. Your tailbone is tucking under, and you're actively pressing your low back firmly into the floor. If you're able to do this and you're talking and it's no big deal, then we're gonna try and take it up a notch by maybe taking one foot off the floor, maybe both feet off the floor in a tuck position. If this is no big deal and you're able to maintain really solid positioning all the way through, then we're taking one leg out to extend and lengthen that lever and the amount of load that you're placing on your midline, but we're still keeping part of it tucked in close to that center of mass. From here, to make this more challenging, you can take the other leg out, and then we're holding and all the way arms up by the ears to make it even more fun. The challenge with this is keeping your low back pressed to the floor and creating as much tension from your fingertips all the way out to your toes as possible. Top priority in training the hollow position is making sure that your low back stays connected to the ground the entire time. If it starts to pull up off of the floor at any point, stop, come down, take a moment, breathe, rest, recover, and then go back into it, maybe with a little bit more modification. So one of those very first steps that I showed are a great option. What we want to make sure is that the workload is staying in our lower abdominals and we're not placing extra stress and load on the low back. So want to stay away from stressing the low back, but protecting it by strengthening our low abdominals, as well as our hip flexors, our quads, our entire trunk, everything from our shoulder down to our hip, anterior, posterior, is doing a ton of work. And we wanna make sure that we're training properly, so we're teaching our body good habits and getting the most benefit out of every second that you put into your training. Next, we're gonna go over some tight arch positioning. So with this is a complement to your hollow position. With this, we're gonna flip over and you're gonna lay down and we're going to practice the same thing as far as the connection from your fingertips out through your toes We want everything one nice solid piece of muscle. However, it is the opposite of what we're doing in that hollow position. So we'll be opening the shoulder, we're gonna open the hip, and we are going to be working much more on the posterior chain strength throughout this position specifically, still making sure that we're creating as much active tissue tension throughout. First, laying onto the floor, what you're gonna do is squeeze your heels together, point your toes, squeeze your glutes, squeeze your quads, legs are nice and straight. And then I want you to pull your belly button to your spine. And then from there, we're gonna bring our head neutral, so our eyes are straight down. And then with your arms, we're gonna hug our biceps to the backs of our ears, almost like you're holding a beach ball or something out in front of you. And then we're gonna elevate the legs. And we're just holding. Lots of different things that you can do to train and strengthen that position, but very, very important. We wanna make sure that we're keeping our front and our back, so posterior and anterior, balanced as far as strength and mobility and stability. Third position is our side plank. So what I want you to do is lay onto your side. You're gonna get your elbow directly underneath your shoulder. I want you to think about corkscrewing your arm into the floor. So you're gonna pull in with your elbow, press out with your palm. So you're corkscrewing that arm in. You might want to start with bending your bottom leg under you. So what this would look like is we're still getting this hip through, top shoulder, back. This might be where you begin today, and that is awesome. So that is option one. Option two is to take that top leg, bring it back behind you, keep your feet flexed, and then we're pressing up, keeping the shoulder pulled down and away from the ear, keeping that elbow pulling in, and with this top shoulder, we want it pulled back. We want this bottom hip pulling forward, and we can look up to the ceiling. You can also reach your hand up, light fingertip touch the side of your head. Any of those are great. And then last but not least, more challenge, take that top leg, place it on top of the other, and then we're doing the same exact thing here and just holding, having a great time. Knowing that you are building so much strength and stability throughout your entire back. What we're doing in the side plank is really work on and build and protect your back. Of course, your abs are doing work, but we're working so much more than that. Obliques, as well as the muscles in your back that help you maintain good posture, and also when you're lifting, help to actually stabilize the spine. And that also involves your lateral rotation with the QL. So your deeper muscle groups are doing a ton of work just by holding your body off the floor in the side plank. So very, very helpful for increasing longevity, keeping you healthy for a lot longer. Category 2, upper body strength for daily life. In this category, we will be going over different plank variations as well as upper body push and pull, support holds, and hangs from the bar. Movement 1, we'll be talking about plank positioning as well as proper mechanics in the push-up. So getting set, we're going to get into a high plank position using our hollow body. So everything that we talked about in category 1 with the hollow applies to our push-up and our planks. So making sure that we're creating as much global tension throughout the body. So we're connecting everything that involves making sure that we're keeping that hollow bracing. So rib cage pulled down, glutes nice and tight, tailbone tucked, quads fully engaged. We're pressing up and away from the floor through the upper back, and we're keeping our hands right about shoulder distance apart. So when you get set in your high plank, I want you to imagine you are creating a vertical line from your shoulder, elbow, and wrist down to the floor. We want to make sure that our hands are never out in front of us. Sometimes what can happen when we're getting into our plank is our hips can come up and we're pressing back a little bit here. This is a little bit exaggerated, but just to give you the visual here, another thing that can happen is the hips will start to drop. As we get fatigued, especially if you're doing static holds in a plank, this is very common. And we want to make sure that we're actually doing something when we're spending our time getting our training in. And if that's what we're doing, we're not getting any benefit. We may even be aggravating our low back rather than strengthening our lower abdominals. So when we get into our push-up, I'm gonna demo the push-up, the full hollow body chest to ground push-up, what we are working towards, and then I will show you some different ways that you can break this down and gradually increase the load that you're placing on your upper body and your midline, of course. With the push-up, we're gonna get set in that hollow body high plank position, shoulders stacked over elbow and wrist, fingers spread wide. You can go wide with the feet or you can keep them together. So together is more challenging. This is gonna be more load on your midline. Feet apart, less challenging, less load on the midline. However, the body position does not change. With your feet together, you're gonna be able to activate more of your posterior chain. So squeezing your heels is going to help you activate your glutes and your quads that much more. From here, we're going to hug the elbows in, try and get the chest to the ground first, and make sure it's the last thing that leaves the ground, or the only thing that actually contacts the ground. If your lower half ends up on the floor, it's okay, but our main goal is that our chest beats our lower half to the floor, and our upper half is the last to leave the floor on the way up. So what that looks like, say you are okay through the eccentric portion, so the lowering down, and you're able to control really great through the bottom of that push-up. But once you get to the floor, you're like, there's no way I can get up from here. Think about bringing your knees to the ground, but before you press up in a worm-like fashion, I want you to tuck your tailbone, squeeze your glutes, make sure that your midline is hovering off the floor and you're in that hollow. So you're still working on activating your entire midline and pressing up with good control. From here, you'll just come back into that full high plank, lowering down. Say you start to feel something, form starts to collapse, bring your knees to the floor, fix it, move through the rest of your movement, and try and get in as much as you can through that eccentric portion. That is where you build your strength for the concentric, which is the press back up. Those are some different ways that you can modify on the mat. If you have access to a box, a bench, a chair, even racking a barbell low on a rack is also super helpful. If you do, this is my favorite way to have my clients modify their push-ups because they're not having to change body position at all. All it is changing the angle of the movement. So we're taking off some load that we're placing on the midline when we have our hands and our feet on the floor so that we can move through the full range with better control all the way through. You'll be able to build on that gradually and increase the challenge and the load that you're placing just by lowering the surface that your hands are on. So what that looks like is hands are set, shoulder width apart, squeeze your heels, tuck your tailbone, hug the ribs, elbows in, and we're just bringing our chest all the way to touch. We're not stopping here. If you're having a hard time moving past a certain point and there's a reason that you can't actually touch your chest to the surface that your hands are on, then you need to find a new surface for your hands to be on so that you are able to move through that full range of motion, making sure that we're actually using our triceps and we're not just relying on our chest if our elbows are flared out this way. Also using and activating our lats as well, our glutes, our midline, lower abs, everything is doing work here. Movement 2. Dead hang and scat pull-ups from the bar. This is still a static hold. The very first thing is a dead hang. Now we're just practicing hanging from the bar. Can we actually hold our body weight off the floor in a hang position? We are not going to worry about what our body is doing while we're hanging from the bar. And the only other thing I want you focusing on is making sure that you're keeping your thumb wrapped around the bar. So what we're gonna do is hop up, and you're gonna get a full grip on the bar, and we're just going to gently step off a boxer bench, or if you're on the floor and you can actually reach the bar. But I want your shoulders to touch your ears or move in that direction at least. So you're not holding tension anywhere, with exception to the grip. A lot of people will talk about how this is a little uncomfortable for their hands. It does get better over time. Your hands do toughen up for sure, but I always encourage my own clients and anyone that I work with to give it some time and gradually increase the duration that they're hanging from the bar to build that endurance. And the other thing is to make sure that that thick part of your palm is on top of the bar and you're not just hanging from your fingertip. It will feel like an amazing stretch, most likely all the way through your entire body, and that is great. So hanging from the bar for even like 20-30 seconds a day, just accumulated in as few sets as possible, is so beneficial for many different reasons. The way that we can build on this, the next thing that I'm gonna show you is something called a scap pull-up. I am gonna hop back up, and what we're gonna do is you're going to start just like you did with the dead hang. And so you've got your ears touching your shoulders in the very bottom. If you want to get into that hollow bracing, you can. Just pay attention to that straight line I have created from head to toe. And then from here, I'm going to pull my shoulders away from my ears and then allow them to travel back to touch my ears. And then I'm going to pull my shoulders away and then back down. This is for scapular health, your upper back health, shoulder health, your entire shoulder girdle. You're gonna feel a lot going on in your lats as well. Very important, and of course you're working a ton of grip strength all at the same time. I love putting these into warm-up specifically for upper body training. Next, support holds. So what we're gonna do is grab a set of parallettes. If you do not have a set of parallettes, it is okay. You can grab a set of chairs or benches or something sturdy where you can have a hand on either end and get your body in between. What we're gonna do to get set is take fingertip to elbow distance, measure in between the two, whatever you're using, parallettes, benches, boxes, make sure they're set to about shoulder width. What I want you to think about is your hands are gonna be directly underneath your shoulders, ideally. So when we are getting set on the parallettes, your hands are gonna be right in the center of the handle. And from here, to start, your hip is in line with your wrist. And what I want you to think about is, rather than allowing your body to kind of sink into that support hold, we're gonna press down and away. So you're sending your shoulders away from your ears, as far away as possible. And you're staying pressed up, so you should feel a lot happening in your triceps, in your shoulders, in your upper back, in your midline. There's a lot going on here. If this is no big deal for you, some different ways that we can make this more challenging. One would be to take your feet out in front. Just watch where your hips go, because sometimes when this happens, your hips end up way out here, and that's not what we want in this position. So make sure that your hip stays in line with your wrist, you're staying pressed up and away. To make this more challenging, one thing you can do is maybe bring a knee into your chest and hold, maybe extend that leg, creating a little bit more load on the midline with that straight leg out. That's creating a longer lever, placing more load onto your midline and upper body. And then from here, the next option might be to take both legs off the floor. Maybe take one leg out, maybe both legs out. Whatever you got, you want to be training the most challenging variation possible with what you are able to hold with proper form. Gradually over time, you can continue to build on that when you do this consistently. Before we move into one of the most important areas of building strength, shoulder health and longevity, if you want guidance and support that helps you master these movements, I'd love to welcome you into the Wellness Collective. This is my new online community designed to get you connected, training smarter, building strength sustainably, and supporting each other every step of the way. And I am offering this right now for free free for the first 100 members. Tap the link below. I would love to support you. Category 3, shoulder health, grip strength, and longevity. We're starting off with some hangs from the bar, starting to incorporate the hollow position, the tight arch position, and something that I call the active neutral position. And this is that hollow bracing, that straight line that I mentioned in category 2 on the scap pull-ups. This we'll be going over a little bit more in detail so that you can really start to refine those positions and start to bring more awareness to what your body is actually doing while it is hanging from the bar. Before I get up there, I'm gonna just touch on a few key cues here. So we want straight arms all the way through. This also applies to the scap pull-ups, and I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but very important, and one of the common faults is ending up with trying to use your biceps rather than your lats. So make sure that when we get set, we're activating our lats by pulling our shoulders down and away from our ears, and we're keeping our arms long. This is working straight arm strength and back as well. So right here, pulling the shoulders down and away, I want you to think about, rather than flaring the rib cage out, we're gonna pull the rib cage down. Tailbone is straight down to the floor in that neutral position. Belly button to your spine, squeeze your glutes, squeeze your quads, squeeze your heels together and point your toes. When you point your toes, you really start to activate and kind of keep the rest of your body in check. When your toes are not pointed, you are not as tight as you could be. And with body weight movement, tighter is lighter. So the tighter you can create more of that active tissue tension globally, so from head to toe, the better movement is gonna feel, and you're gonna feel like you have a lot more control, and most likely will feel a lot lighter, which is helpful. We're gonna hop up, wrap the thumbs, toes are pointed straight down, shoulders are away from the ears. And from here, this is our active neutral. We have created this nice straight line all the way from our fingertips down to the floor. From here, I want you to imagine as if you're trying to rip the bar down by pressing your palms into the bar. And what happens? So what we're doing here is starting to work into our lat active hollow position behind the bar. So we're going from our active neutral into our lat active hollow. The only thing that changes here is the angle of our shoulder. Our body stays the same position the whole time. It moves as one piece. There's no breaking in the hip. There's no piking in the hip. There's no, legs are not bending, nothing else is going on. It is literally only by activating the lats by trying to tear the bar to the floor. So press down into the palm and watch your body move, and that's it. So it's all created from the shoulder. That is it. Next, we're going to bring it back into our active neutral and move into our tight arch behind the bar. So from here, we're in our active neutral, we are in our lat active hollow, back to active neutral. Now we're gonna move into our tight arch. We're opening the shoulder, opening the hip, but keeping everything connected. So toes are pointed, legs are straight, quads are squeezed, glutes are tight, extra super tight. We're still pulling our belly button into our spine when we're opening that shoulder. Then we're bringing it back to active neutral, back into lat active hollow, active neutral, and out. Eventually, over time, we're gonna work into something called a beat swing. This is a drill in gymnastics, very helpful for developing the skill of rhythm and timing and control. With that, you should be able to stop at any moment. So it's not a movement where we're moving and swinging with the legs out of control. It is a movement controlled through the shoulder and the lats. Everything else stays nice, tight, and connected from head to toe. Next, we're gonna talk on some farmer carries. So the very first thing you wanna do with this movement is approach it as you would a deadlift. If you've never done a deadlift before, I'm gonna go over the basic movement mechanics for actually just picking up the objects off the floor. And the objects that we're gonna be using for this farmer carry are some kettlebells. You can do farmer carry with barbells. You can do it with, they actually make farmer carry equipment specifically for this movement. You could use dumbbells, you could use plates, do a pinch hold, which is so fun. Whatever you've got, I mean, you could use your grocery bags and do a farmer carry. What we want to make sure of, if you have never done this movement, is that we are maintaining proper posture and overall just proper alignment throughout. That active neutral position that I talked about on the bar also applies to when we're walking. However, we want shoulders down and away from the ears, rib cage down, belly button to our spine. And then as we go to pick up the kettlebells, I'm gonna send my weight back into my heels. The kettlebells are on either side of the arches of my feet, so they're not way out here. I'm going to push through the heel, stand, and now from here, everything is just maintaining good posture. That is it. So I'm gonna go for a little walk. And I'm walking, and as I'm walking, I'm also paying attention to midline stability. What am I doing? Am I allowing my shoulders to collapse and my upper back to round? Am I, when I go to set the kettlebells down, am I rounding my back? When I go to pick the kettlebells up, after I've set them down to rest, am I being mindful of my positioning throughout my back? Am I setting up with good posture and good tension throughout? So all of those things are very important with the farmer carry. However, it is very simple. It is not easy. So with this, the challenge is challenging yourself. So go heavier than what you might want to do. Take 5 extra steps than you want to take. There's a lot of ways that you can make this more challenging. I like to say more fun, because you know you're getting stronger. And then the next time you go to the grocery store and you need to carry everything in one carry, because why would you want to do more than one carry? You will be able to, and it will be such a great day. So last but not least, the Russian kettlebell swing. When you get set for this, I want you to think about having your feet right about shoulder distance or slightly wider than that. From here, we're gonna have the kettlebell set out slightly in front. I want you to think shoulders down and back, weight back in the heels. And so it is a hinge. We're hinging from our hips, making sure that we're maintaining good tension. So shoulder blades pulling together, making sure that tension isn't getting lost anywhere throughout our back and our posterior chain. So everything is fully engaged. And from here, you should be able to wiggle your toes when you get set for this very first piece of the actual kettlebell swing. We're gonna do a kettlebell hike to get the kettlebell moving. And as you drive up, I want you to think we're driving through the heel, squeezing the glutes, opening the hips nice and quick. The faster you get your hips open, the more power is gonna be transferred to the kettlebell. So think of, as you open the hip, also, we're working that hollow bracing. A lot of times what I see is that the hips fly forward and we're putting a ton of load and stress on the low back. That is unnecessary, and it can, make your back not very happy. And then you don't want to do these any longer. So that's not good either. The kettlebell swing is an amazing movement because you get so much benefit out of keeping this movement in your training. So pay attention to proper form, technique, movement mechanics, and you are going to see so much benefit. Master these 8 movements in static position hold, and your body will feel younger, stronger, and more capable for life. And if you want to dive deeper into strength, longevity, and building a body you trust, you can check out my book, Live Fit from the Inside Out, on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. So until next time, I'm Nicole, and I'll see you on the next one.